Friday was a big day for U.S. soccer. Mauricio Pochettino was introduced as the new U.S. men's coach at a press conference in Midtown Manhattan. He earned rave reviews, was very well received, hit all the right notes. I have thoughts, but I'll let you go first. What did you make of it?
So I was impressed and I guess cautiously optimistic after the Pochettino press conference. He said all the right things, and I think said them all in the right way, in that he was personable, affable. I thought he came across as comfortable. I thought he came across as controlled. And I thought he came across as incredibly likable as the new head man for this men's national team. The actual content and the substance of what he talked about, I think you could have written it ahead of time. But that it's coming from Mauricio Pochettino, I think, is what has made it powerful. In that Mosse, and we started the show off with the clip where he talked about, for example, this team believing, this team needing to believe, and ultimately believing so much that they believe that they can win a World Cup. Now, this is not necessarily something new that has been said, but the way that it was received is very different. Mosse, you know you're a big music fan. You can write the best song in the world. But just because you're a performer doesn't mean that it's going to translate when you go out and perform it. And sometimes great songs need great messengers. And so the message is important. But in this case, I think the messenger is as important, if not more important. So when he does say things that even though we've heard before, it has more gravitas because of who it is coming from. You know, I mean, we've talked about believing that we can win a World Cup and saying that. And oftentimes when I say it or other people say it out there or other coaches say it out there, it's met with, oh, you're gaslighting or you are, shilling, or you are preying off of an uneducated American soccer public out there by saying that, and it's delusional for you to say that. This, when Mauricio Pochettino says it, was met with the absolute opposite reaction. And I'm happy about that. I'm happy that he is, in saying something like this, obviously setting the bar very high, but also making it inspirational. And I think that is very, very important. Again, less than 2 years until 2026. Believing that you can do things that haven't been done before, believing that you can do things that people say you can't do is important. Ultimately, whether it happens is up to him. I will say this when it comes to the believe and the believe. Ricken, I mean, I understand the Ted Lasso effect, but Ted Lasso has screwed it up for everybody because you can't just say believe and then automatically makes it happen. So he's got a lot of work to do in order to live up to the things that he talked about. But out of the chute, as I said, incredibly positive, I think incredibly impactful, and I don't think it could have gone better for him.
I don't have an issue with Pochettino on day one talking about winning the World Cup. He read the room. It's what people like you wanted to hear. Nobody wants Pochettino to walk in there on day one and temper expectations. But we are talking about a national team that over the last 9 World Cups has one knockout stage win against Mexico in 2002. A national team that has one player, Christian Pulisic, who is a bang-on starter for a big club in a top 5 European league. And a national team that, let's be honest, we've talked about this before. If we were to rank every national team in the world across Europe, South America, et cetera, the U.S. clocks in somewhere around 15th. So I'd be curious to know, does he really believe that, or is he just saying it for PR purposes? And it is worth noting, Jeff Carlisle wrote an excellent piece chronicling the U.S.'s coaching search and how they ended up with Pochettino. And he said in the piece that prospective candidates were told the goal for 26 is to reach at least the quarterfinals, and anything beyond that is gravy. So that might be where everybody's head's at more realistically, but Pochettino felt like on day one, why not set a high goal for yourself and talk about winning the World Cup?
Yeah, and again, this message coming from this messenger, I think, was appropriate, to your point, in the circumstance in that press conference, and the timing of it is important. I did, as I heard him talk, at times I scratched my head. I was like, yeah, the reason why I was impacted and I reacted in the way that I did was because, yeah, I've said this kind of stuff before and taken plenty of shots over the years when I do say something like that, whether it's, yes, the U.S. should believe that they should win the World Cup. And if you're going to go to a World Cup, what's the point of going unless you believe that you are going to win? Is it easy? No. Is it probable? Not necessarily. And certainly given the past that you talked about. And then when he started talking about arrogance, and we've talked about the beautiful arrogance that I want to see from an American team. So he was feeding into that Americanism that I have, and that American exceptionalism that we have. But because it was coming from this messenger, I think it hit in a way that maybe others saying the exact same thing wouldn't.
Two other things he said that I thought were interesting. He is going to be eventually based in Atlanta. He said he'll spend a lot of time in Europe scouting players, but he is going to move to the U.S., so that sort of puts to bed that whole issue. Also, he dismissed lack of time as an issue, which was so refreshing to me because we hear so often national team coaches use that as an excuse. Pochettino said, no, if you have the right coach and the right players, things can click instantaneously, and so he's not worried at all about the lack of time. I actually liked that he said that.
What's he going to say? Oh, boys, I don't have a whole lot of time. I lost another window here. So he's saying all the right things, and he's saying things that most other coaches would say. Have we ever heard a coach get up there and say, you know what? I want to bunker in. I want to concede the ball as much as possible. And then when we do get the ball, I want to make as few passes and look as unappetizing as possible. Nobody says that. Everybody wants to play attacking. Everybody wants to put the other team under pressure. So ultimately, the proof is in the pudding, and the devil is in the details. When we ultimately see what this team looks like when they get on the field.
A few other notes from that Jeff Carlisle piece, which everybody should read, by the way, was excellent. He said that they started out with a list of 100 coaches, and they divided them into 3 categories. The ones they thought they could definitely get, the ones that were a bit of a reach, and the ones that were a super reach. And Pochettino was actually in the super reach category. So it's quite the coup for U.S. soccer to land the guy who at the beginning of the process they thought was going to be a super reach. Klopp, the article says, that was the dream choice.
Right.
They went for him first, and he turned them down. But it sounds like Pochettino was right there, a level below Klopp. And so they got to be doing cartwheels at U.S. Soccer that they were able to land a coach.
And
like
rumored $6 million
I was going to say that. So
price tag, too.
So he's taking quite the pay cut from what he's used to making at club level. It's around $6 million per year. However, even then, U.S. Soccer had to get creative and rely on some donors. Sounds like this Kenneth Griffin, who got a shout out in the press release, might be footing a lot of the bill here. It is more than Emma Hayes makes, but Emma evidently has no issue with that. Her and Pochettino are friends from their time together at Chelsea, so she's all for this, is okay with it. So that puts that issue to rest as far as the equal pay stuff. And then very interesting thing Jeff mentioned in the piece is that it's a 2-year contract, but both sides are very open to the possibility of signing on for another cycle. So this might not be such a short-term solution as we initially thought.
Well, if it's long-term, I think it would be relative to him being successful. So I hope it ends up being long-term because of the short-term success that we have. Also, are you suggesting that Emma is okay with it simply because she likes him and has a relationship with him? I mean, she should be okay with it ultimately because he's a quality coach, whether she knows him or not, right?
Yeah, but I think it helps that they get along really well. It sounds like Emma Hayes might have even played a part in convincing Pochettino.
And that's great. And use everything at your disposal. But if your friend is making that amount of money and you don't think that that's fair, then that should supersede any type of friendship that you have. Shout out he got from plenty of people out there that are looking at this, and this did make international news. His signing and the announcement. Pep Guardiola even talked about it in his comments. I think he wished him well. I think he looks at him as a peer, and at times maybe a worthy adversary when it comes to what Pep does. But they're also in listening to Pep talk about it. There also seemed to be kind of not a confusion, but a reticence to, go full bore on it, in that he's kind of gone and over there doing that thing. And it's a very different type of situation. Although Pep, as a lot of these coaches have said, they talk about America in a dreamlike type of way, that is something that ultimately does interest me. Now, some of them are doing it because it's prudent business-wise, just to kind of keep that market open. And some, I do think, in this case, when it comes to Pep or anybody else, they do see that as a possibility in the future.
Also, I found it interesting. We focus so much on his ability to speak English, but it sounds like his ability to speak Spanish, obviously he's Argentinian, was a factor too, because it could help him recruit dual nationals between the U.S. and Mexico. So it was interesting that was cited as a factor as well in all the articles.
Yeah, I'm as I said, I am cautiously optimistic here. Now we get down to it, in that we have windows coming up, and we will see the team actually on the field. And he has made that wide open door policy, which is good. And I think it's just smart. And what coach would come in and say, no, this is the only players and nobody else has a chance? Obviously, you're going to publicly say that everybody has a chance, and who knows, maybe they are going to scour going forward.
His first two matches will come in the October window against Panama and Austin, and against Mexico and Guadalajara. That should be a fun one now with Pochettino on the bench.
Yes, that is that is going to be interesting. And we will look at and see how the team collectively plays, and are there changes in the way that they go out playing, either formationally or tactically in the way they do it. We will look at, are they bringing in players that either we haven't seen in the past, or players that have kind of been written off in the past, or younger players that we have recognized but haven't really been part of this team, or or the players that are there, is he able to get them individually to play better than we have seen so far, and certainly better than this last window, where, again, it was just a pathetic and kind of apathetic type of performance from this team. Anything else on Pochettino? Obviously, we'll talk about him a lot going forward, and he is going to be one of the main stars as we lead into this next less than 2 years leading up to 2026. But all in all, I think, I don't want to speak for everybody, I remain happy, and I am excited.
You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops twice a week right here on my very own YouTube page. The only way to stay up to date is to hit that subscribe button down below. Size the day, and see you soon.